Windstar or something like that.
There you go.
We'll be back later with the car, Mom.
Yeah. I sure don't like this universe. I'd sure like to get over to the other one where we're big stars.
Constant reporters just asking, you ever thinking about getting back with Joe Perry? Like, no. Why would I?
No.
These guys are great.
What a jerk he is. NSW.
I always thought it was funny though that Rick DeFay, was famous for a short stint of Aerosmith, but then he got famous later because he was the father of Minka Kelly, who was famous for being an actress and dating Derek Jeter. That, and his guitar playing kind of went by the wayside.
Yeah, but the levels of fame are definitely getting watered down as we go along.
Yeah, you talk about water going over a dam and whatnot. Like he is at the bottom with a pair of cement shoes right now.
Yeah. Yeah, but Rick gave it a good try, and I think I mentioned in that Aerosmith chapter that he deserved a better chance. It was just there was a lot of collateral damage in that came out of that period, and arguably the members of Aerosmith, well, Tyler at that point, and the other two guys. I mean, Tom Hamilton and Jerry Kramer were pretty messed up too. Arguably we might have left them behind in 1982, and somehow they managed to work it out. So, yep, that's our universe, man.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm in that universe where the stars align and they kind of get back together, and you have all the great new music that's been coming out from those guys. One of the other chapters though, I got to talk about though, is you had interactions with Black Sabbath, and pretty much both like Ozzy and Ronnie James Dio, and I got to ask you this, as one fan to another, who's the better talent, James Dio or Ozzy?
Well, you can't just say one or the other, but you can say one or the other, and with aspects of what they do, which is not a cop out. It's like, Ronnie James Dio clearly is a better singer. He had an amazing voice. He had one of the most amazing voices in rock ever. The notes that he could hit, and it's like Sammy Hagar and David Lee Roth, a very good comparison. Sammy Hagar's got the better voice, but David Lee Roth had the extra X factor, shall we say, that crazy, wild, idiot meets rock star, I can do whatever I want, in concert. That was what Van Halen needed to start. And Ozzy had what Black Sabbath needed to start. He had a zaniness in his character. I read his books. Oh my God, there's a guy who shouldn't have made it out of his teens. But he brought that wildness to Black Sabbath. And, Iommi is a pretty even Steven kind of guy. He just wants to play the guitar and be really great at it. And and Geese is pretty wild, with his head and everything, but he wants to be a good player too. And everybody forgets how amazing Bill Ward was. Just listen to those early Black Sabbath albums. His drumming is incredible. But the unit with Ozzy made them interesting. Ozzy's lyrics and his ideas were essential to that band becoming known and becoming a huge band. Ronnie Dio, though, came along at a time when they really needed him. And they got a fresh jolt of energy and a great chemistry with Dio. But if you put Dio next to Ozzy in a straight singing contest, Dio could take him every time.
No question.
And Ronnie Dio had a much better handshake. Ozzy's handshake would scare the Jesus out of you. It's like shaking hands with a jellyfish. But he is a very nice guy, I gotta say.
Yeah. For those that haven't read Carter's book, if you want to get the idea of the type of person that Ronnie James Dio is, there was a story that I believe it was Tom Morello was telling on that metal show one time. He was talking about, I think he was an Audioslave at the time. They were practicing next door to where Dio was practicing. And he's like, I put my ear up against the wall, and I'm hearing the mob rules and practicing and whatnot. I'm like, yeah, this is great. This is right next door. He's like, I'm gonna go say hi to him. So he goes over to the next room. He's like, hey, Dio, I just wanted to come and meet you, man. He's like, I was shocked at how short this guy was.
Oh, yeah.
And he's he's like, kind of a slip of the tongue. I was like, I didn't expect you to, kind of be so short there. And he's just like, he's like, Dio just looks up at me. He's like, it's not the size of the pencil. It's how big you write your autograph, buddy.
And I'm sure you had a chance to say that quite a few times.
Yeah, a number of times.
Well, you remember, when Ozzy was touring against Black Sabbath, at least one of those tours, Ozzy was hanging a dwarf on stage, and it was obviously that he was poking fun at Dio. I mean, it got a little nasty there for a while.
It got a little nasty, but, then, fast forward, 20 years later, here's Sharon saying, well, I was the one who recommended, Dio for the job for Black Sabbath, and it's like, I don't know, something doesn't really add up here,
Well, it could be a case of playing both ends against the middle. I don't know. Sharon, I think, has the capacity, because she's very smart, I think she has the capacity to be able to separate being a wife and being a manager. I think that she's able to perhaps make unpopular decisions for her marriage, perhaps, that would actually benefit him as a client. And, I can't give you specific examples unless we sit and really tear it apart. But that would make sense. I mean, Black Sabbath was an entity, and I don't know whether she was managing Black Sabbath at the time. I don't think so. I'm not sure.
I don't think so. I think.
Excuse me?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know if she was just managing Ozzy at that point, or
right. But she had contact with the band, close enough contact to be able to recommend Dio. I can see her doing that because she's. I'm sure she was a fan of Black Sabbath. I'm sure. How could she stand by and not be dismayed at where Ozzy was going? I mean, Black Sabbath was a great band, and those guys all started getting crazy and using so many drugs. If you read Ozzy's book and you read about them trying to make the fourth album in Los Angeles, it's just all they're doing is it's wild amounts of cocaine, and nothing's getting done. And they're like racking up these incredible bills in this mansion in Hollywood, and nothing's getting done. And it got worse. It just got worse and worse. And Sabbath Bloody Sabbath for me is like the pinnacle. I love that album so much, but then it just starts getting stupid. And you see this great band going south because they're all so wasted, and Ozzy, maybe the most wasted, but they are all guilty as charged. So if you're a fan of that band, as I would imagine she was, why wouldn't you, and that Ozzy's leaving or he's down for the count or he's got to deal with his own demons or the band is not going to continue with him at all, why wouldn't you say, hey, this guy, Dio, he's not working right now and he's great.
Yeah, I
can see that happening.
Yeah, because I think at that point he had just left Rainbow with Richie Blackmore, and I'm trying to I remembered it was Sharon's father, I think, was the manager of Black Sabbath at that time.
Yeah, Don Arden. Don Arden. Yeah, he was a big manager.
Yeah,
he actually got his daughter in the business. He had too many bands, and so when she was very young, he said, I have this band that I don't have time for. Why don't you manage them for me? They're called Electric Light Orchestra. And he just gave them to her. As like some people give their kids Camaros when they graduate high school. He gave her Electric Light Orchestra.
It's not the craziest thing we've ever heard, like a manager taking over a band for. I mean, for anybody that's read Shep Gordon's book, for example, They Call Me Supermensch. And he started managing Alice Cooper as a cover for selling drugs. Yeah. Well, he also did a pretty good job managing Alice. Yeah, he did a good job managing him, Teddy Pendergrass, a whole bunch of acts like Anne Murray. The list goes on, and he was kind of like the guy that started the whole celebrity chef gimmick. Well, as long as he didn't recommend Anne Murray to replace Alice, I'm okay with him. No, I don't think she could pull off the makeup. Just, I can't even picture her with the eyes, man. Just ugh. I can't visualize her doing "I Love the Dead." No, or I'm 18. I just no. Something seems askew with that. And if it's in a parallel universe, I don't think I want to go there. No, we'll leave that one over there. You stay over there. We'll leave that over there with Bizarro Smith. Yeah, the Romulans are over there.
That's their hell.
Yeah,
that's their hell.
That's their hell. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. So one of the other chapters that really stuck out was your chapter on Nirvana, and like I don't know if I'm wrong on this, but like the attitude that I got was the basic story of it was you were like, wow, what's this thing about this band Nirvana? Like what's this all about? They can't be as good as everybody's saying that they are, and you go see them and your mind is just blown away by these guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, I certainly was playing them on the radio, and I love the music. I love Nevermind. I know that Cobain was embarrassed because it became such a big hit. I mean, that was part of his personality. But I thought that was great. I thought the sound of that record was so good. I loved the hard-hitting drums, and I liked the songs. And In Utero, I liked too. And I just thought it was really good. But everybody is talking about how it's the second coming, and I'm not prepared to agree with that unless I see them. And so, a band like that, and it's happened to countless bands, is the hype. They got to live up to the hype, and it's not hype that they've made. It's just the fact that the world just went ballistic when they came and listened and bought millions of albums and start laying on them the responsibility of being rock's saviors. And so now they have to live up to that. So if you haven't seen them and you don't necessarily agree with that, you start to become skeptical. And the more time passes, the more skeptical you become. And so I'm like, I don't know, these guys, so I'm like, I got to go see them. And so I had not had the opportunity to see them in the earlier days. And so when they came around on that 93 tour, playing out in Fitchburg, I got a couple of tickets to go, and nobody was really going out there. I mean, I live out in the Metro West, so it's no big deal for me to drive all that way. But a lot of my friends are kind of close to Boston and didn't really want to make the trip. And I couldn't get rid of my extra ticket. Nobody wanted to go with me. I'm like, okay. So actually, there's a side story that never made the book. I was working out in this gym in Milford, Mass., and there was this guy that worked the desk, and he had a mohawk, and his name was Spike, and he was a bodybuilder, and he could, probably break my body like a toothpick. And he was young. He was like probably 28, 30, if that. And one night, nobody wanted to go with me. I'm like, this kid would want to go. I go, hey, you want to go to see Nirvana? He's like, maybe I will. Yeah, I'll let you know. So like the night before the show, I go to work out. I go, hey, you in on Nirvana tomorrow night? And he goes, I got a chance to make some extra money by working tomorrow night. I need some money. I go, okay. So I went to the show myself, and I just gave the ticket to somebody in the parking lot. And the show was amazing. And it was amazing because they just did what they usually do. But they were really good. I mean, what they did on record, in a controlled environment with a producer, and we didn't like that, let's do take two, they could do live on stage. And it was really impressive. And I enjoyed every moment of the show. I enjoyed the quieter songs because they were gearing up to do the Unplugged show in New York, and they had the cellist on the road, so they were doing some of those songs, kind of the quiet parts, she'd be in on them. And then there'd be just total, like, freak out moments. And me being a punk rocker from, the late 70s, I don't mind volume and I don't mind noise, and I enjoy that. The show blew me away. And that kid Spike who worked the front desk, to this day, if I run into him, all these years later, I can't believe I didn't go to Nirvana that night, because of course we lost Cobain, shortly after. And so, and that's tragic, because they were really playing, I think, on top of their game, and they actually managed to live up to the hype, which may be impossible, even no matter how good you are. They still, at least in my mind, satisfied everything that I was hoping, and everything that had been built up, not by their own fault, just by the machinery which kind of arises around a huge